Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Like he said, my name is Niraj Mehta. I work with Barclays. By trade, I am an engineer. So, my team and I, we built a machine learning platform at Barclays, which does decisioning real time, right? And I'm going to talk about, basically on the machine learning lifecycle, what we had to go through to build this platform, and what are the data issues that we have encountered when we built this platform, right? I'm also going to touch about COVID, just so that, to give a perspective of, how COVID impacted and how does it impact going forward. I'm going to talk about bias and the model governance, because I think that's very important, especially when you look at data and how it is used. And then I'll talk about, what did we use to alleviate some of these issues that we had, and then we'll open up for Q&A. So with respect to a machine learning platform, right, to give you a perspective, at Barclays, we implemented a machine learning platform to detect fraud. Right? So any credit card or debit card transaction when it comes in, we decision real time in 850 milliseconds when we catch fraud. To go through this whole project from inception took us about 3 years, right? And these are the basic steps we had to go through, right? Starting from the objective, getting the product definition done, right, to feedback. But what I want to highlight here is, right, we spent a lot of time in data analysis, in preparing our data, in understanding what our data is, right, getting feature engineering done, evaluating the model, training it, checking if the model works, going back, training a different model, evaluating that, right? That process itself took us a year or more, if not, right? We spent considerable amount of time on that. And once we had the model we knew that would work, that's when we took it to production, right? We productionalized it, we deployed it, we evaluated how the model is doing in production, right? We have a monitoring and then a feedback, right? So the whole reason to give this, background is so that I can emphasize on how much data is important for machine learning. Your model is only as good as your data, right? I think in the morning somebody had mentioned, right? Garbage in, garbage out. That's very true. If you don't get your data right, your model is not going to be performant at all. So to talk about data issues, right? So one of the many issues that we had was, right? Let's say you have your you have your problem statement, you have identified. You know what you want to do. You want to build a machine learning model. Where do you go from here, right? You are a data scientist. You're sitting there. You don't know where the data comes from. Every bank or any financial institute has multiple systems through which data flows. So you need to identify, you need to know what your golden source of data is. You need to understand the data. You need to profile it. You need to get a context, right? That itself is a very laborious and time-consuming task. Right? You have to have the right skill set. And one of the challenge with this whole process is getting the right skill set. You need your data engineer. You need your data analyst. You need your business analyst. You need your data scientist. Get all of them together. Understand your platform, understand what data you have, and how you're going to use that. Right? The only way to solve this is making sure you have the right people in the room, and you can work through that process. Right? Once you have profiled your data, you know what your source is, you need to make sure you get the data on time. If you don't have all your data when you're building the model, then your model is not accurate. You're not getting the right score. And that's only for the offline data that I'm talking about when you use the model. Once your model is productionalized, you need your online data. That also needs to be on time. Because if you don't have the online data coming on time, you are not decisioning correctly, right? Your model is not accurate. Robustness. You need to make sure you have enough data to run through all different scenarios for the model. Right? In our case, we took almost 1 year worth of data, right? And I'm talking about billions of records. We are evaluating the model against billions of records to make sure we capture all scenarios. If you don't have that robustness, then your model is not accurate either. Right? So your data plays a very key part in this whole process. In my opinion, a machine learning program is more of a data program than anything else. Quality of data matters, right? You have to have standardization, consistency across your data. If data from one source is in one format and the other in another, right, your model is not accurate either. So you got to be consistent. Completeness matters. If you have gaps in data, then your model is not accurate either. Right? So see, these are some of the data issues that we had to go through. Right? It took us a good amount of time to get past it. bias is another problem with data, right? How do you use that data to build the model? I'll touch upon that, in much detail, but that's something we had to be very cognizant of, especially with the bank, right? It comes with, the territory, right? You have to know how you use your data, or you have financial regulatory implications. And then feedback. So once you have your model in place, you are decisioning on it. How do you know the model is good? How do you know it's doing the right thing? You have to send that feedback back to the data scientist, back to the team that built the model. Make sure you're evaluating it back to what it was expected to do. The reason I brought COVID up is, right, when we started this project, we started in 2018, late 2018. We were just before COVID. We built our model, we got ready to put it in production, bam, COVID hits. Now what do? Your model is not right. You don't have anything to go back and base your model against. We've never had COVID in a lifetime, once in a lifetime event. So there's nothing to go back by. The model that you built, it's not accurate anymore. The data, trend, everything has changed. Right? Just to give a perspective, right? If you look at credit card transactions, before COVID, you would walk to a store, buy something. Right? I'm a person of habit. I go every Sunday to Walmart, to BJ's, I buy things. That's my nature. COVID hits, we are in lockdown. I'm not going to the store anymore. What am I doing? Going to Amazon, going to Whole Foods, online, buying things, Instacart. Now that has changed the trend. Model doesn't work anymore, right? So COVID completely impacted the way we built our model. We had to go back to the drawing board, look at our model, and rebuild that. And that's only the short-term impact. We don't know what the long-term impact is. Will this trend stay? Will it change? We don't know. Now you have inflation. Adds uncertainty again. So the other problem with your machine learning is, and especially with data, is uncertainty. You always have to be prepared for it. Bias. So I spoke about bias before, right? To give a perspective, what is bias? If you take your model and you use gender in there, someone's male, reject this transaction, high risk, right? You use age, income, race, nationality, that's bias. You can't do that, right? Especially for a bank, there's a financial implications and regulatory implications. How do you get around that? You've got to get model governance in place. That's your solution. You have a third party. It doesn't have to be outside the bank. It can be a team within the bank itself. But it's an independent body that's going to regulate the model. Go through the governance process and make sure data is used right. The algorithm is right. Your decisions are correct. There is no bias in the model. The challenge with that is you have to take into account that it's going to be slow. It'll slow you down. The project will take longer than you expect to go live. So we spoke about some of the issues that we had with data, right? So how do you overcome that? Right? The one way to overcome that is to make sure you have up-to-date feature stores. Your feature stores can have offline features and online features. You keep feeding your data, you keep collecting data, right? And you have enough so that you can always keep your feature store up to date. Right? There are different ways you can build feature stores. We went about doing in different combinations, but you could have like a data lake, a data warehouse, a batch processing system. That guarantees completeness of data. It's not the speed that it guarantees, but it guarantees completeness. That is very useful for your offline features, for building the model. And that's what we are going ahead with. And then you could have a streaming system, or you can have an in-memory key value pair, right, where you can get online features for real-time processing. So on our side at Barclays, what we did was we went with a combination of batch processing and in-memory key value stores. So that helped us get offline data and online data as well. And definitely being on the cloud helps. Right? Cloud gives you the capability to scale, get things faster. You don't have to wait for hardware to come in. You can try new things. You can try prototyping. Gets you up there. So that's how we went about solving some of our data issues at Barclays. So I'll open up for question and answers now.